This is real footage from Lake Argyle, Western Australia, filmed by a tour operator who has run boats on this water for over a decade. No zoom, no shaky handheld panic. The camera is steady, the boat is idling, and something long and dark is moving through open water in broad daylight, closer to the swimmers than anyone on board expected. For most of this lake's history, that shape wouldn't have worried anyone. Lake Argyle is famous for exactly one kind of crocodile, the freshwater crocodile, the shy one, the one every brochure calls harmless. But the body proportions in this clip, the wider snout, the way it holds itself in the water, don't match a freshie. They match something else. Something that, officially, isn't supposed to be living here at all. And here's what almost nobody outside the East Kimberley actually knows. This lake has already run one uncontrolled population experiment with crocodiles by accident 50 years ago. Dr. Ruchira Somaweera didn't just study this lake in passing. His entire PhD thesis was built on it, titled, plainly, Ecology and Conservation of Australian Freshwater Crocodiles at Lake Argyle. He's now a principal scientist and practice lead for ecology at Stantec, Australia, an adjunct associate professor at Murdoch University, and a National Geographic explorer. But Lake Argyle is where his whole career in crocodiles actually started. And in a 2011 paper in the journal Australian Zoologist, he documented something the official brochures never mention: a probable unprovoked attack by a freshwater crocodile at Lake Argyle, and a pattern of these shy animals preying on terrestrial mammals well beyond what the species was assumed capable of. His research didn't say the word extinct. It said something quieter and, in its own way, just as unsettling. That the animal everyone had agreed to stop watching closely was never quite as predictable as the brochures claimed. So first, how did Lake Argyle end up with more crocodiles than almost anywhere else on the planet? Before 1971, this wasn't a lake at all. It was the Ord River, and freshwater crocodiles lived here the way they do everywhere else in the Kimberley, spread thin, a few hundred animals scattered across scattered waterholes. Best estimates put the original population at around 350. Then the Ord River Dam went in. The valley flooded. And what had been high ground became more than 70 islands scattered across a reservoir the size of a small sea. Nobody planned what happened next. On the mainland, freshwater crocodile eggs get destroyed constantly. Goannas, birds, feral pigs, roughly 9 in every 10 nests wiped out before they hatch. But the new islands were small, isolated, and almost completely free of exactly those predators. The sand and gravel the waves pushed up around their edges turned out to be close to perfect nesting ground, so the eggs survived. Almost all of them, generation after generation. By 2010, a government survey put the number at somewhere between 25 and 35,000, not 350. A 100-fold increase, entirely by accident, in under 40 years. For a while, that number was told as a conservation success story, and in one sense, it genuinely is. Tour boats built entire businesses around it. The lake's own official tourism material states plainly that only incidentally is a saltwater crocodile found here. Small, isolated individuals, nothing more. Here's the sentence you'll hear most often if you spend time up there. Freshies don't hunt people, salties do, and salties don't live in Lake Argyle. For decades, that sentence held, at least publicly. But it never held everywhere. In March 2010, in the same year Dr. Somaweera's research was heading toward publication, the West Australian ran a headline that the lake's own tourism material has never quite matched since. Fatal crocodile attack inevitable. Sit with that word for a second. Not possible. Not increasingly likely. Inevitable, the word you use when you've stopped debating whether something is coming and started debating when. And if that word was chosen carefully back in 2010, it wasn't really describing a future risk at all. It may have been describing a present tense nobody wanted to say out loud yet, because you don't call something inevitable if it might never happen. You call it inevitable if the process is already underway and the outcome is just a matter of time catching up to it. Which raises the question this whole video is actually built on. If the experts who used that word in 2010 were right, was inevitable ever really a warning about tomorrow? Or was it the closest anyone was willing to come, at the time, to saying they've already moved in, just phrased carefully enough that nobody had to prove it yet? To be clear, that's a conditional, not a confirmed fact. Nobody, then or now, has produced evidence of an established breeding saltwater population inside Lake Argyle. But it's worth sitting with what would have to be true for that 2010 word choice to make sense, and whether inevitable and already happening are really two different claims, or just the same one, spoken at two different volumes. That gap, inevitable versus incidental, is where this story actually lives. The stretch of the Ord River between Lake Kununurra and the Argyle Dam Wall isn't just scenic. It's an officially declared Crocodile Risk Mitigation Area, a zone where, by policy, any saltwater crocodile spotted is either trapped or destroyed by parks and wildlife rangers. That designation doesn't exist for a hypothetical animal. It exists because saltwater crocodiles keep turning up there, individually, again and again, traveling overland during the wet season when floodwaters connect river systems that are normally isolated from each other. In March 2024, rangers confirmed 1.5 to 2 metras, sighted less than a kilometer upstream from a popular lagoon. It wasn't the first. It won't be the last. For years, the official response to each individual sighting was the same, and it was reasonable. Remove the animal. Reassure the public. No evidence of an established population. One salty, caught early, isn't a colony. But here's where it gets interesting, because the same data that reassured everyone for years is now the reason a biologist who studies this lake for a living has stopped choosing his words as carefully as the tourism board would like. Somaweera's own published position is measured, not alarmist. He has never claimed a breeding saltwater population exists in Lake Argyle. What he has documented, on the record, in a peer-reviewed journal, is that the freshwater crocodiles here already behave less predictably than the shy and harmless reputation suggests. And if the species everyone was already sure about turned out to have surprises left in it, the open question is what else this lake might be underestimating. Every removed saltwater crocodile confirms the same uncomfortable fact. The route in is open, every single wet season, not as a one-off, but as a recurring pattern. And Lake Argyle isn't an empty vessel waiting to be filled. It's the most successful crocodilian nursery habitat ever accidentally created in Australia. The same predator-free islands, the same protected nesting sand, the same absence of natural egg predators that turned 350 freshies into tens of thousands in 50 years. Stack those two facts together, and you get the sentence the 2010 headline was already reaching for. This lake has already proven, empirically, that it can turn a small founding population of crocodile into tens of thousands within a single human lifetime. And every wet season, it keeps testing whether the wrong species can find the door. That's not a hypothetical. That's the lake's own documented history, running in reverse. So where does that leave the footage from the start of this video? Even if that specific animal turns out to be a freshie with unusual proportions, and it might be freshwater crocodiles vary more than people expect, the deeper claim in the title isn't really about one clip. It's about a pattern the data has been quietly building for over a decade. Individual saltwater crocodiles keep finding their way into a lake that has already shown exactly what it's capable of doing with any crocodile population left unchecked. And here's the part that almost never makes it into the tourism brochures. In 2022, a 38-year-old woman was bitten in one of Lake Argyle's coves. Wildlife officers ended up shooting the animal responsible. The lake reopened days later. The annual swim event that sends hundreds of people across open water went ahead again the next year, and the year after that, because 35,000 freshwater crocodiles and a handful of bites over decades is, statistically, still an extraordinarily safe lake by crocodile standards. But statistically safe and permanently safe aren't the same promise. And a lake that has already proven it can multiply one species by 100-fold isn't a lake anyone should assume has a fixed cast of characters. So here's what I actually want to know from you. If a confirmed breeding population of saltwater crocodiles ever does establish inside Lake Argyle, not a single overland traveler trapped in March, but a permanent colony using the same islands the freshies already turned into a nursery, does that count as an invasion? Or is it simply the lake finishing an experiment humans started by accident in 1971? And if the difference between completely safe swimming lake and genuinely dangerous water has always come down to which species happens to find the door first, how much of what any of us call safe is really just a head count nobody's finished taking yet? Tell me what you think in the comments. I read every one. Because the shape in that footage was moving through water that has already rewritten its own rules once. And on this channel, we're not done watching the water.